Banana Twist, Chapter 7. It was hopeless, so I didn't try too hard. Now that Goober knew where I lived, I didn't stand a chance. He started coming over at odd hours of the day. He talked through my television programs. I kept turning the sound louder and louder, but he kept talking louder and louder. I tried to get rid of him, but it was like getting rid of a long summer cold that hangs on and on and on. And just as you think you've sneezed your last sneeze, it starts all over again. Then for days he wouldn't show up. I'd have started to relax when he'd appear at the door with another emergency of his, or else just to sit at our apartment and ruin my day. Between times, I'd work on the questionnaire. Actually, I've got to admit that I picked Goober's brains when I was around him, and I used all kinds of stuff he'd say for the questionnaire. That helped me a lot. Things like, "Give your opinion of the results of the Vietnam War," or "Have you any political preferences?" I'd get him started talking, and then I'd take mental notes and copy them down after he'd left. That way I finished up the questionnaire without too much more monkey business. I'd kept postponing the hard part. What is your self-image? Do you consider yourself too tall, too short, too fat, too lean? Do you think you present as good an image as the next boy? I'd been thinking about that one a lot. If I admitted that I was too short and too fat, then maybe they'd never let me keep too much stuff in that refrigerator I was going to have very soon. They might not anyway, once they got a look at me. Of course, I'm not really that fat. It's just that I'm going through this stage. Finally, I wrote, "One's self-image is not just what one sees in a mirror. When I look at myself through others' eyes, I see a young boy who has not yet outgrown his youthful body. There will be changes. There will be improvements. I believe in the old Latin expression, which I will here translate, a sound mind in a sound body. As far as presenting as good an image as my peers, I can only say that I do not look at my friends' imperfections, but only at the real person that looks out from their eyes. I can only hope that they are looking at the hidden me, and not at the boyish image I present to the world." After I'd written it, I got up and looked in the mirror. If anybody could see any hidden me, they had better eyes than mine. Dad was out of town, Mom had gone to a dinner and a show with a couple of her friends, and I was settling down in front of the television set, ready for a great night. I'd mailed off the Fairleigh questionnaire, and I felt relaxed. Also, I hadn't seen Goober all day, which had given my stomach and my nerves a chance to settle down. I'd just turned on my favorite program, my hamburgers were cooking away, and I had a big box of pretzels beside me to tide me over until the hamburgers were ready, when there was this knocking at the door. It was Goober. He was all bug-eyed, and his pimples were not so pink as blue, and when I opened the door he gasped, "Hurry!" and turned and ran across the hall to his apartment. Another non-emergency, I thought to myself. But you never knew. Maybe it was something important. Sometime he'd be calling, "Wolf! Wolf!" when there really was a wolf. Maybe a wolf was attacking his parents right now. That's the way he was acting anyway. It was either that or some other nameless catastrophe, so I ran after him. He raced into his apartment and into his room. He pointed wildly to the aquarium. "It's leaking! It's leaking seriously! We've got to transfer all of them into the bathtub! We've got to hurry!" He squinted desperately at his watch. "They'll be closing," he whispered. "The pet shop will be closing, and I've got to get another aquarium. The bathtub is just a temporary solution." He leaned over the aquarium and gasped, "The water's going down fast! We've got to be quick! I started the water in the tub. You transfer the fish while I run over to the pet shop, to the aquarium." He was already opening and shutting his bureau drawers looking for his wallet. The reason I knew this is that he kept saying, "Wallet! Wallet! Wallet!" as if it would hear him and say, "Here I am!" "Don't look at me," I said. "I'm not carrying those fish into another room. I'm not carrying them anywhere." "They'll die! They'll die!" said Goober, his eyes bulging. It reminded me of the first time I'd met him. "You move them. I'll get the new aquarium," I suggested. "Look," he said urgently, "all you have to do is lift them out with this net into this bowl, and then you take the bowl into the bathroom and you spill them very gently into the tub." I shook my head. "They won't bite or anything," he said. That did it. I didn't want him to think I was afraid of them, even though they were pretty darn slippery. "Well, hurry," I said. "I'm really busy." People downgrade television, but it's true that if there's something you've really been looking forward to watching, and then you have to transfer someone's fish or something instead, it's a big disappointment. Goober finally found his wallet and dashed out of the apartment. I tried fishing the fish out of the leaking aquarium with the little net. It really was leaking fast, and pretty soon the fish wouldn't have any water at all. I had gotten 3 in the bowl and was just lifting out the 4th when I suddenly remembered I'd forgotten to turn down the heat under the hamburgers that I was fixing for supper. They were probably burning right now, and probably setting our whole kitchen on fire. In my hurry, I dropped the 4th fish, a black one, on the floor, and it was sort of jumping around on the carpet, and I wanted to save it, but I had to get to our apartment or the whole thing might catch on fire, maybe the whole building. So I dashed out of Goober's apartment and into ours, and sure enough, there was smoke all over the living room, to say nothing of the kitchen, and in another minute it would have been a real disaster, comparable to a wolf attacking Goober's parents in their beds. I turned off the stove and then dashed back to Goober's to save that fish I'd left flopping on the floor. I got him into the net and into the bowl, and he looked pretty sickly to me, but maybe he'd revive when I got him into the tub. The tub! I'd forgotten it! The water was still running. I could hear it now. I raced into the bathroom, and sure enough, the tub was overflowing, and there was about an inch in the bathroom, and it had spilled out into the hallway. Before I had a chance to have a real nervous breakdown, I heard the door to the apartment open, and I yelled, "Goober!" And it wasn't Goober, it was his father. He stood there looking at me strangely. He'd look at me more strangely still if he saw the mess I'd made with the overflowing tub and all. "Where's Goober?" he asked. "He had an errand to do," I said, hoping he wouldn't hear the water running. If he waited here for Goober, I'd be in trouble because I'd made a real mess, so I said, "He asked if you could meet him. It's very important. Meet him at the drugstore over in Diamond and Royal as soon as possible." Mr. Groob frowned and kept on frowning. "He said to hurry," I urged him. "He's all right and everything, but he needs to talk to you right away." Mr. Groob, still frowning, turned to go. Then he turned back. "What about the faucet?" "The faucet?" I asked. "Our kitchen faucet is leaking. Be sure to tell your father." "Oh, I'm sure he'll be very interested," I said. All I could think of was the overflowing tub. "Don't forget," he said. I nodded. "I'll be writing to him tonight, and I'll mention it," I said. "He'll be very interested to hear about it. He loves faucets." Writing to him? His black eyebrows shot up. Now I remembered that my father was supposed to be the janitor here. It was too hard to explain everything, so I just said, "Well, he's very hard of hearing, so we either shout at him or we write him notes. I don't have a very loud voice, so I usually write to him instead of shouting." If I didn't get rid of him this minute, the water would start coming into the living room. "You'd better hurry over to that drugstore," I told him. "It's a really big emergency of some kind." Mr. Groob looked as if he were used to Goober's non-emergencies, as I was, but he opened the door to leave. "Don't forget about the faucet," he said as he left. I fled to the bathroom, which meant wading through the water. I hurried to make the best of things. I turned off the water in the tub, and I grabbed every towel in sight to soak up the water on the bathroom floor. It was hopeless, so I didn't try too hard. I ran back into Goober's room to see how the fish were doing, the fish in the little bowl and the fish still left in the leaky aquarium. The fish in the little bowl were sickly, and the fish in the aquarium were flopping all around, and I didn't see how I could ever get them out with a net. I'd have to do it by hand, and I decided I would either faint or be sick, or have a nervous breakdown, or die. About 50 hours later, I had all the fish in the bathtub, and everything was just about as wet as the bathtub was. Goober's room, where the aquarium had leaked, and the bathroom, and the hallway, and me, and probably the floor below that, and the floor below that. And where was Goober? I wondered angrily. It would be a year before my TV program was on a rerun, and I'd probably be too old for it by then at the rate I was aging. I was beginning to feel really sorry for myself, mushing about with towels trying to get everything dried up, when Goober burst into the apartment carrying a huge aquarium that was about twice as big as he was. His face loomed through the glass. He looked kind of like a big fish. I got it, he said. "How are they? Did you save them all?" "I saved them all," I said, suddenly feeling very proud, and suddenly realizing that it was the first time in my life I'd ever felt proud of anything. "They're going to be all right," I went on, reveling in this new sensation. "I think the little black one may be kind of tired, but—" "You mean Daphne?" he asked, racing into the bathroom. "Maybe she needs—" Daphne proved to be recovering, and after a lot of arguing about whether I was or was not going to stay and help get the new aquarium ready, I stayed. Actually, I'd have been disappointed if he hadn't needed me, if the fish hadn't needed me. We transplanted the plants, and he put some special capsules in the new water, so it would be right for the fish. And then he said we'd have to wait a little while before we put them into the new water. That's when I left. He said, "Thanks a lot. That was nice of you." The automatic record of anyone who has been brought up well. Ordeal by fire, the hamburgers, and water, the bathtub overflowing. I thought wearily as I went back to the apartment. I'd have to get things cleaned up before Mom came back. There was nothing on TV now but the news and the weather reports and the sports reports. Goober had ruined my whole evening. He was ruining my disposition. He was ruining my summer.